Welcome to Mother's Revenge, where heartfelt stories touch your soul and may even bring you to tears. At 17, I thought the world had slammed every door in my face. Every school sent a rejection. At least that's what I was told. I believed I wasn't good enough, not smart enough, not wanted enough. But years later, when I opened a dusty box my mother brought to my door, I found the truth buried inside it. I was accepted everywhere. Full rides, scholarships, opportunities. I dreamed about stolen, hidden so my sister could shine. They watched my life collapse and said nothing while I slept on floors, worked 3 jobs, and clawed my way out of the dark alone. Now I'm a millionaire. Now I have everything they said I'd never achieve. And suddenly they want back in. But the thing about betrayal is this. Once it breaks you, it also teaches you who you can never let close again. My name is Lucas Bennett, and before I share everything that happened, I want to know you're here with me. Sometimes knowing someone is listening makes all the difference. Thank you. And now, let me tell you everything. And if you want to follow the rest of my journey or stories like mine, feel free to subscribe. It helps more than you know. Sometimes, knowing someone is listening makes all the difference. Thank you. And now, let me tell you everything. And if you want to follow the rest of my journey or stories like mine, feel free to subscribe. It helps more than you know. I'm Lucas Bennett, 30 years old CEO of Summit Games Studio, a gaming company that exists today because I refuse to die in the dark. Standing in my office overlooking Willamette River, the skyline lights flickering off the water, I still feel something tighten in my chest whenever I look too long at how far I've come. Therapy helped me understand that success does not erase old wounds. It just gives you better lighting to see where they began. Even now, after years of building myself from nothing, there are parts of me I cannot touch. Memories sealed behind a door I avoid opening. Most of them come from the year I turned 17. The year everything in my life broke at once. It was supposed to be a quiet work-from-home day. I planned to finalize a pitch deck, maybe take a walk by the water if my anxiety did not get in the way. But then the doorbell rang, sharp, unexpected, the kind of sound that makes your pulse react before your mind does. When I opened the door, my breath caught. My mother, Helen Bennett, stood there for the first time in 13 years. She looked smaller, older, nothing like the immaculate woman who once ruled our Salem home with ironed clothes and ironed expectations. Her eyes were sunken, her hair streaked with gray, and she held a wooden box like it might fall apart if she loosened her grip. "We need to talk," she whispered. Her voice trembled in a way that made my stomach twist, but not with sympathy, with caution, with instinct. I almost closed the door. My body reacted before my brain did. Because the last time I saw her, she watched my father shove me out of the house with a backpack and no plan. But curiosity, dangerous, corrosive curiosity, made me step aside. She set the box on my coffee table. I did not sit. I did not offer her water. I did not trust myself near her. When I finally opened the lid, the air left my lungs. Inside were stacks of envelopes, my name, my handwriting, my future printed on every one of them. Colleges, scholarships, programs I once dreamed about, and then convinced myself I never deserved. My chest burned as I picked up the first one. Stanford University, a full scholarship. My acceptance letter, the one I never received, the one I had cried over when I thought it never came. I turned to her, the question clawing out of me. She dropped her gaze. "I hid them," she said, voice cracking. "I hid all of them." A heat rose inside me so fast it scared me. 13 years of survival, of forcing myself to believe I was rejected because I was not enough, unraveled in an instant. Why? My voice did not even sound like mine. Her answer was barely above a breath. It was not just me. The room tilted. Someone else, someone I trusted even less. The realization hit with the weight of a falling building. And that was when I knew this was not just an apology. This was the beginning of something much darker. I told her to leave. My voice was steady. My hands were not. When the door closed behind her, I stood there trembling, staring at that box, knowing one thing with absolute clarity. This was only the surface of a much deeper betrayal. When the door finally shut, the silence in my penthouse felt heavier than her presence. I carried the wooden box to my office and spilled the letters across my desk, watching years of erased possibilities scatter like broken glass. Running my fingers over the envelopes, I felt something sting in my chest. Grief for the boy. I had been the one who spent nights convincing himself he was not good enough for any school, any scholarship, any future. I opened the Stanford University letter first. Not only was I accepted, I received a full-ride tuition housing mentorship, a path straight into the world of game engineering I dreamed about since I was 12. University of Washington, University of Oregon, Oregon State University, Portland State University, Reed College. Even smaller programs had offered scholarships. Every single letter was an open door I never knew existed. My hands shook as I realized they had all been opened before I ever saw them. The creases were not from the mail. They were from someone else's hands. I remembered my father's voice the night he told me I had nothing waiting for me. Not one acceptance. Not one. Are you proud of yourself? I thought the humiliation was mine to carry, but it was manufactured. A script written long before I stepped into that room. My phone buzzed. A message from my mother. You have to hear the rest. Don't blame me alone. The words made my stomach clench. There was more. Someone else had been involved. Someone she was trying to shield. I looked back at the envelopes, at the ones marked Return to Sender. The handwriting was not mine. It was not my mother's either. It took me a moment to place it. And when I did, my breath caught. It was my sister's handwriting. Claire, the golden child, the perfect daughter, the one who always seemed strangely relieved whenever I failed at something. I remembered how she had hovered behind my father that night, quiet, almost smug. Now it made sense. She had not just watched it happen. She helped make it happen. Anger surged, but another detail in the box stopped me cold. A thin folder wedged beneath the letters. Medical records. My father's name, David Bennett, printed across the top. The dates aligned with the week I was thrown out of the house. A note from a psychologist read, "Patient experiencing anxiety about losing control of family dynamics." Another line concerned the younger son's independence, possibly destabilizing the home. I sat back stunned. My father had not acted out of disappointment. He acted out of fear. Fear that I would leave succeed and disrupt whatever fragile identity he built around being the head of the family. The betrayal was not an impulsive act. It was coordinated, pre-planned. Everyone in that house had played a part. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling as the weight of it all pressed down. My mother's shaking voice, Claire's handwriting my father's psychological notes. For the first time in years, I felt something close to the panic I knew at 17. But underneath it, there was resolve. I was not going to run this time. I was not going to swallow the truth to keep their image intact. I was going to uncover every piece of what they had done. And whatever waited at the bottom of this truth, I would face it, even if it meant reopening wounds I had spent my whole adult life trying to close. The letters on my desk felt like they were burning holes straight through the wood. But the real fire was inside my chest. I leaned back in my chair, closed my eyes, and let myself fall backward into the version of me I had spent years trying to bury. 17. The age. Everything cracked. I did not want to relive it, but the only way forward was through it. The first memory hit with the blunt force of a fist. The day I learned I had been rejected by every school I applied to. I remembered holding the thin envelopes, the pity in my father's eyes, and something else, something I had not understood then. It was not anger. It was not disappointment. It was calculation. A man trying to justify a choice he had already made. At the time, I thought he was acting like a parent who did not know how to comfort a failing son. Now, with the truth laid out across my desk, I could see the lie he was building even before I stepped into the room. Another memory surfaced dinner that same night. Claire sat across from me, unusually silent. She did not gloat, did not tease, did not even make eye contact. Back then, I thought it was because she had been invited to interview for a law scholarship and did not want to seem insensitive. Now it felt different, like she knew exactly what had happened and was holding her breath, waiting to see if the lie would hold. Then there was Rachel, my first girlfriend, my first heartbreak. I remembered the moment she ended things behind the gym after school. I remembered the way she avoided my eyes when she said family issues are too much. I thought she meant my father's temper or my mother's obsession with appearances, but now I could see the truth sliding into place. I remembered once walking into the kitchen and seeing her talking to my mother in hushed tones. I had not questioned it then. I was naive enough to think they were bonding. Now it made my stomach sink. My mother had gotten to her too. Another image cut through all the others. My father calling me into his home office a week before he kicked me out. I remembered the smell of coffee, the blinds half closed, the light casting bars across his desk, like the room itself was a cage. He asked whether I really believed I could make it in game development. I had taken it as concern, maybe even reluctant support. But now I could see something I had missed. His right hand had been behind his back the entire time. I thought nothing of it then. Now I could picture it clearly. An envelope. Maybe the first acceptance letter, the one that would have changed my entire life. My breath tightened as all the memories braided themselves together into something undeniable. This had not been one person's choice. The strange looks, the silence, the conversations behind closed doors, none of it was random. They had moved together. A coordinated effort to redirect my life to shape a version of me that kept the family balanced around Claire's pedestal. When I opened my eyes, my hands were trembling. The old panic, the old helplessness crawled under my skin, but it was not controlling me anymore. I stood steadying my breath and stared down at the letters scattered across my desk. If I wanted the full truth, I could not rely on memories alone. I would have to go straight to the people who tried to erase my future. And this time, I would not be 17. I would be a man. They could not bend. I drove to my cabin near Mount Hood the next morning, needing space to breathe. The air there was different, cleaner, sharper, untouched by the noise of Portland or the ghosts waiting in Salem. I thought the isolation might help me think, might quiet the storm inside me long enough to figure out my next move. But the chaos I was trying to escape found me anyway. I was sitting with a cup of coffee on the cabin's wooden steps when I saw a familiar car turning up the gravel road. I froze the moment Claire stepped out. I had never given her this address. No one in my family knew it existed, which meant only one thing. My mother had been following me, tracking where I went, or digging through records she had no right to access. The violation burned through me before she even reached the porch. She did not wait to be invited. She climbed the steps with a restless urgency, the kind that said she wanted something from me and believed she could still get it. I stood slowly, my voice low and sharp. "How did you find me?" She ignored the question. "We need to talk." I did not answer her. I pointed at the stack of envelopes in my hand, the ones I brought from Portland because I could not stand to leave them behind. "I saw your handwriting on these. Why did you send my letters back?" She blinked too fast. "That was not me." "Mom must have Claire," I cut in. "Do not insult me." Her face twitched with irritation, and I could see the truth in the way she would not meet my eyes. She had known. Maybe she had not sealed every envelope herself, but she had been part of it. She crossed her arms, slipping into the practiced confidence she used in law school. "Dad is sick," she said flatly, as if that erased everything. "You need to help." I almost laughed. "Help after what all of you did to me?" She sighed, impatient. "Families rely on each other. You are doing well now. It would not kill you to step up for once." The absurdity of it made something inside me go cold. Step up. I was thrown out because you needed to shine, and now I am supposed to forget that because you need something again. She stiffened, but her mask cracked when I asked, "Did Dad know?" She hesitated a beat too long. Then she said quietly, "Dad only did what he had to do to keep the family together." The words hit me harder than any admission. He had not been misled. He had not been manipulated. He had been part of it from the beginning. "You should let this go," she snapped when I did not respond. "You are successful now. Is that not enough?" That sentence was all I needed to hear. There was no regret, no remorse. She wanted convenience, not reconciliation. "You need to leave," I said, moving toward the door. "Now." She stared at me like she did not recognize the person standing in front of her, then huffed in frustration. "Fine, be dramatic, but you cannot ignore us forever." She walked down the steps, gravel crunching beneath her shoes. I stayed where I was until her car disappeared through the trees, the silence settling again around the cabin. But it was not peaceful anymore. I finally understood there was no way to piece together the truth from fragments or memories. If I wanted answers, real answers, I would have to face all three of them together. And when I did, I would not be the desperate boy they once controlled. I would be the man they never expected me to become. When I drove back to Portland, the skyline felt different, sharper, less like a home and more like a vantage point. I walked into my office at Summit Games Studio and laid the college letters across my desk again this time, not as a wounded son, but as a man dissecting a crime scene. Each envelope looked like a version of the life I should have lived, the one I was pushed off from before I ever had a chance to stand on it. I started the investigation the way I built my company, methodically, obsessively refusing to look away from even the smallest detail. I lined up the postmarks, traced the dates, compared the handwriting on the return to sender notes. Every detail confirmed the same brutal truth: I had never been rejected. Not once. I had been accepted everywhere. I dug into old email accounts I had not touched in years, the ones I created back in high school. I found university notices reminding me to confirm enrollment. Notices I never saw. Notices someone else had seen for me. And then I found a scanned copy of a letter from Stanford University, addressed not to me but to my parents, acknowledging my decision not to accept the scholarship. Stanford University had required a signature for the decline. The signature on the scanned copy was not mine. It was my mother's, written in the same elegant looping script she used on holiday cards. My jaw clenched until it hurt. She had not just hidden opportunity. She had destroyed it with my name. I turned back to the medical file from the box, forcing myself to read the pages straight through. My father had described me as unstable, unprepared, likely to struggle if allowed too much independence. He told his therapist he was terrified of me going far away, of the family responsibilities being left behind. I had always believed he kicked me out because he was disappointed. Now I understood he was afraid. Afraid of losing control, afraid I would surpass the narrative he built for our family, where Claire was the shining one and I was the quiet shadow meant to stay near. Then came the final hit. While digging through archived school files, I found old drafts of my scholarship essays, the ones I poured myself into. They were unique, personal, raw. Next to them was a different file. Claire's award-winning scholarship essays for the law program she entered that same year. Paragraphs mirrored my drafts, my metaphors, my structure, my stories, my voice. She had used my dreams to buy her way into hers. Everything I lost, the years, the direction, the stability had fed into building Claire's path clean and effortless, and I had been kept out of the way to make sure she remained untouchable. I opened a new spreadsheet and began calculating everything. Not for revenge, but for accountability. What would my life have cost if it had not been stolen? 4 years of Stanford University, tuition and housing, starting salaries. I never had career acceleration, lost therapy bills, years of sleeping in basement and temporary rooms, the emotional cost of being lied to until I believed I was worthless. The numbers grew row by row, column by column, until they formed a total so heavy it made my stomach twist. Then I called my legal advisor and asked one question: can I send them a formal invoice? She paused only a moment before saying, "If what you have shown me is true, you can." When I saved the document, my chest felt tight but clear. For the first time in years, I was not stumbling through the wreckage. I was mapping it, naming it, owning it. This was the first step toward reclaiming everything they tried to take from me. I returned to the office early the next morning, opened my laptop, and pulled up the spreadsheet. Seeing the numbers again did not spark anger. It sparked understanding. Every dollar represented a choice they made for me without my consent. Every line item was a version of myself I never got to become. The clarity was unsettling but liberating. I went through each category carefully. 4 years of Stanford University with full scholarship value, lost income from starting late in the field. Housing instability during those years, therapy bills from the trauma they caused, additional losses from delayed career progression and early rejections that never should have happened. When the total appeared at the end of the sheet, the figure was enormous. But for once, I did not question whether I was overreacting. I had lived every one of those losses in real time. While finalizing the file, I found another email tucked deep in an archived folder, one from my father to a former co-worker. "The boy needs to learn how to fail," he wrote. "It will build character." My hand shook as I read it. I had always believed he kicked me out in a burst of temper. The email showed intention cold practiced. They had not just let my life collapse. They had orchestrated it. I created a PDF titled "The Opportunity Cost of the Life of Lucas Bennett." I reread it twice before exporting. My name at the top felt like a weight not of shame but of truth. As I worked, Ethan, Samuel, and Olivia passed by my office and accidentally saw the document open on my screen. They did not pity me. They did not try to soften anything. Ethan simply said, "If this happened to any of us, we would demand accountability too." Samuel nodded. "You are not asking for revenge. You are asking for recognition." And for the first time, I realized the people I hired were more of a family than the ones who raised me. That afternoon, I composed a single email addressed to all three, my mother, my father, and Claire. I attached the invoice and wrote, "If you want to repair any part of this, start here. No threats, no anger, just the truth quantified and undeniable." 3 minutes later, my mother replied, "We do not have this kind of money." Like the entire thing was a bill for a broken appliance. Claire texted, "You cannot be serious. No one owes you anything." Her words felt familiar, dismissive, entitled, predictable. My father called twice, then 3 more times. I let them ring until they stopped. Then he sent a message. "You do not understand the full story." I stared at the screen for a long time. The message was not defensive. It was not angry. It felt like a doorway into something I had not uncovered yet. Something they had all kept quiet for more than a decade. If there was still a truth waiting beneath all of this, I would find it. And I knew exactly where it lived inside the house where everything began. The decision settled into me with a cold certainty. I grabbed my keys and headed to Salem. It was time to face them not as the boy they broke, but as the man they never expected me to become. Driving back to Salem felt like driving into a storm I had outrun for 13 years. The house looked smaller than I remembered, almost fragile. But the moment I stepped out of the car, the weight in my chest made it feel monstrous. I stood at the walkway for a full minute, feeling fear, anger, and a strange hunger for closure all collide inside me. I rang the bell. My father opened the door. He looked older than I could have imagined. Thinner stooped, the confidence he once wore like armor, now a fragile shell. For a moment, neither of us said anything. He did not greet me. He did not smile. He simply stepped aside as if he already knew why I had come. We ended up in the living room, the same place he told me I had no future 13 years ago. I did not sit down. "Why did you do it?" I asked. My voice barely rose above a whisper. "Why did you hide the letters?" He swallowed, his eyes shifting to the floor. "Everything we did was for the family," he said. "You leaving, you succeeding somewhere else. It would have torn us apart." His answer made something cold expand inside me. "So you controlled me instead?" I asked. He did not reply, but his silence said enough. Claire entered the room, then arms crossed, her expression irritated rather than surprised. "So you finally decided to show up," she said. "What do you want now?" I held up one of the envelopes. "Your handwriting is on this. Why did you return my letters?" She scoffed. "I did not. Mom, probably Claire." I stopped her. I did not need her confession. The hesitation in her voice already was won. She stiffened and her face twisted. "Fine," she snapped. "You think you were the only one with talent. Everyone called you the genius. You had everything without even trying." I stared at her, letting the truth settle. She was not sorry. She was resentful. It was not about protecting the family. It was about protecting her spotlight. Then my mother appeared at the top of the stairs, clutching the railing like she needed it to stay upright. "I'll tear. Please," she said, her voice trembling. "We never meant to hurt you. We were trying to keep the family together. Our family image mattered more to them than my future." I shook my head. "By destroying my future," she covered her mouth, tears forming. "Your father, he thought you were slipping away. He wanted structure for you. He even considered sending you to a disciplinary program." I stared at my father. He did not deny it, and that was not all. My mother continued breaking. "A game company reached out when you were 17. They wanted to sponsor your project. I declined on your behalf. I did not think it was the right environment for you." For a moment, the room disappeared. Everything inside me went quiet, like my body needed silence to absorb the blow. My dream had not only been delayed, it had been deliberately crushed at the exact moment it began. When I finally found my voice, it came out hollow. "You did not just take school from me. You took my career before it even existed." My father straightened weakly and said, "But look at you now. Maybe all this made you strong. Maybe the mistakes we made built the man you are." Hearing that felt like being stabbed with a dull knife. They truly did not understand what they had done. Not even now. "I did not come here for apologies," I said quietly, "or excuses. I came to face the truth. And now I have it." I walked out. None of them followed. The moment I stepped outside, the air felt sharper, colder, but cleaner. I drove back to Portland, knowing exactly what needed to happen next. The past was done. It was time to close the door myself and lock it from the other side. Back at Summit Games Studio, my team did not ask questions, but they could read the change in me. Something inside had gone still. Not numb, not empty, but settled like the surface of a lake moments before the wind rises again. I walked into my office, opened the box of letters one last time, and chose the cleanest, most pristine acceptance, the Stanford University offer. I took it to a framing studio in downtown Portland. The framer examined it carefully. "Planning to hang it?" he asked. I shook my head. "No, I am sending it." He did not ask further. He handed me a catalog of frame options, and I chose the best materials they had. Then I designed a brass plaque for the bottom. This was the future I earned. You were never worthy of it. I did not write names. I did not need to. I requested the highest grade glass watched as the letter was sealed behind it and felt a strange steadiness settle over me. Before leaving, I wrote a short note to include in the package. I do not need your apology. I need your silence. And then I made one more decision. I would not sign it. They would know exactly who it came from anyway. Back at the studio, I placed the framed letter in a shipping box, added a copy of the invoice, detailing the opportunity cost of my stolen life, sealed it, and arranged delivery requiring a direct signature. Later that evening, I received confirmation David Bennett had signed for it. My father had taken it into his house with his own hands. Within minutes, messages began pouring into my phone. From my mother, Lucas, please talk to me. From Claire, stop acting self-righteous. From my father, you are tearing this family apart. I read them all. Then I deleted every message. My heart rate did not spike. My hands did not shake. I do not owe them anything. I whispered to myself. And for the first time, it felt entirely, undeniably true. The next morning, I walked into a major project meeting at Summit Games Studio. Screens lit up with concept art developers pitched ideas. The future felt wide and bright and completely mine. My past had stopped chasing me, and the chapter that came next was not about them at all. After sending the package, I returned to the office expecting normalcy, but a hollow calm lingered inside me. I had closed the door on my past, but a new wave approached from a direction I did not expect. A prominent tech magazine reached out requesting an interview about Summit Games Studio's upcoming game. I said yes, assuming it would be routine. It was not. Halfway through the interview, after I explained how we built the studio from scratch, the reporter leaned forward and asked, "What role did your family play in your success?" The question hit with a sharp jolt. I took a breath. "My family did not support my path," I said carefully. "I built this life with the people who chose to stay." The reporter hesitated, then added, "Your father contacted us. He said he was the inspiration for your discipline." I did not flinch. They were trying to attach themselves to my success, the same success they had once buried. So I told the truth, not with anger, but clarity. I never lacked opportunity. I lacked permission. They hid my acceptance letters. They sent them back. They erased the future I was supposed to have. I did not rise because of them. I rose in spite of them. The reporter studied me with new seriousness. "Is it true about the box of letters?" I nodded. "And I am using what I learned from it to help others who have had their dreams dismissed by the very people meant to support them." The interview went live 2 days later and exploded across social media. People messaged me students whose parents forbade them from studying art or tech adults who still lived with the shadows of stolen opportunities. Somehow my story became a spotlight for others to step into. I did not expect that. But standing on the balcony that night overlooking Portland's lights, I felt a shift inside me. My work was not just about games anymore. It was about building something that outlived the wounds that made me. The fallout came fast. My mother emailed, begging me to retract the interview. Claire called me a traitor. My father sent a final message. "You made us look like fools." But I did not react the way I once would have. Their panic was not about pain. It was about exposure, and I felt nothing but distance. A letter from a lawyer arrived next claiming I had defamed them. My attorney reviewed every claim and shook her head. "You told the truth, and you have proof. My family did not understand the legal consequences because they had never expected to face any. Instead of striking back, I drew my final boundary. No lawsuits, no revenge, no more conversations. I blocked all communication and made a decision that surprised even me. I would turn everything they tried to destroy into a foundation for others." A week later, I received an email from a gaming studio I once idolized. They confirmed that when I was 17, they reached out with an offer to sponsor my early project, and my mother declined for me, claiming he is not suited for your industry. The last piece of truth fell into place. So I did the opposite. I launched the Horizon Scholarship Fund, a scholarship and support program for young people whose dreams are dismissed or sabotaged at home. At the launch ceremony, speaking to a room filled with 200 hopeful students, I said, "We do not choose the family we are born into, but we choose the family we build." One student approached me afterward and said, "You are the reason I did not give up." Hearing that felt like a door finally opening inside me, one I had been pushing against for years. My family tried once more to show up at Summit Games Studio, demanding to speak to me. Security called. I looked at the monitor, saw them standing in the lobby, and said, "I do not have family waiting down there. Do not let them in." That evening, I drove back to my cabin at Mount Hood. I had a second copy of the Stanford letter framed for the Horizon Scholarship Fund. Instead of hanging the framed Stanford University letter as a weapon, I placed it in the Horizon Scholarship Fund office, where it became a symbol proof that no one could rewrite my future except me. Standing on the cabin porch, listening to the quiet rustle of the forest, I felt something lift. "They tried to steal my future," I said softly. "But this one is mine." And with that, the story closed. Not with vengeance, but with freedom. As I stood on that balcony overlooking Portland, the city lights scattered across the Willamette River like fragments of every version of myself. I had fought to become something settled quietly inside me. For so long, I carried the weight of what was taken from me. The letters, the chances, the years spent believing I was not enough. But now, seeing my story reach others, watching people find courage in the very scars I once tried to hide, I realized something I never expected. Sometimes the future we build means more precisely because of what we had to rebuild it from. Pain does not disappear just because you succeed. It lingers, reshapes you, forces you to confront who you were and who you decided to become. But standing there breathing in the cold night air, I understood that what defines us is not the betrayal we survived. It is what we choose to do with the freedom we earned afterward. My family tried to write my story for me. Today, I write my own, and I offer pieces of it to anyone who might see themselves in my past. If you have ever felt overshadowed, dismissed, or pushed aside by the very people who should have stood beside you, I hope my story makes you feel less alone. And before you go, I would genuinely love to know you were here with me at the end of it. It means more than you think. And if stories like this resonate with you, if they remind you of your own strength or your own journey, consider subscribing. It helps this space grow. But more importantly, it helps me keep telling the stories that deserve to be heard. Thank you for listening. And wherever you are, I hope you find the courage to choose the life that belongs to you.